Hi YouTube, it's Ben here from the photography team, and today talking about Capture One Pro 12 and palette gear. We were contacted by palette gear after we done our announcement that Capture One Pro 12 had been announced itself, and they contacted excuse me, I got a bit of a sore throat today. Contacted us and asked us if we'd announced the fact that they now are fully interactive with Capture One Pro 12 and 11. If you look on their website, they already say that they are, and they've announced that as of yesterday, and we had a blog post go out about that. So they sent us their expert kit, and this has some nice features in it. So you get 3 dials. If I show you what these look like, you get 3 little ones of these, so they're the dials, can twist around. You get 2 buttons, which look like a bit like an arcade gaming machine button, and they sound a bit like that as well. You get 2 sliders, left and right, just slide along, and you get the command one, which is a little screen and a USB that goes off to it. So that's 3 dials, 2 sliders and 2 buttons, and I was lucky enough that they sent me a couple of other bits as well to have a look at. Now I only received this yesterday, so I have not had a chance to really play with it, been extremely busy, but I thought I'd get it out there, and if you already use palette gear or want to use one or the other and you think, well, do they work together, what have you? Yes, they now do. At the moment, it's only macOS that they're supporting, palette gear. And I've got Capture One Pro 12 and the software installed. So let's have a look. I'm going to set up the camera differently just to show you what the gear looks like, show you how you can put it all together. And then I'll look into the software a bit for you and show you how it's interactive with Capture One Pro as well. But just to sort of show you the difference, this is the loop deck. It's not the newest one. This is one of the originals. A bit dusty. It's been on my desk. We started using this beginning of the year, I would say, and really found it really enhanced the editing workflow that we had. So I'm shy to kind of go away from this because of how well it worked, but have found a difference with this and Capture One and this and Lightroom. So I'm hoping that palette gear might kind of fit into that middle ground and maybe better than the loop deck. This gear also works with quite a lot. It's not just the photo editing software. Because there's nothing kind of labelled with it, you can kind of do what you want. You set it up very customizable, and it all just clicks together. Magnets, there's kind of like pins and areas, so it's all very cool. But I'll show you that when I move the camera across. So if you want to have a look at these, it's palettegear.com, I believe is the website, but I'll put it in the description. And have a look at what they've got to offer. Like I say, they sent me the expert kit, but there's some other ones, and you can make your own kit up. My initial impressions, very well made, really well made. It's all sort of a metal, and you can feel it's metal because it's cold, metal construction. These seem very tactile and very accurate. The buttons are a little bit arcadey. You've kind of got this lovely metal, and then it's just a little bit arcadey. But these again, these are very nice and very smooth and silent. So it's kind of, these seem, I don't know, almost afterthought-ish. But how much you'd use them, I don't know as well, because it's kind of just a one button thing where this is obviously a finite adjustment depending on what you want it to do. But there's quite a good thing about this, it is so customizable. You can kind of put it together how you want it, really. Where obviously the palette gear is, sorry, the loop deck is, that's where your layout is, and you're stuck with it. So if you didn't like exposure down here and you'd rather it up here, no, that can't happen. But we'll do a full in-depth review of one beats the other and against the software. So let me move the camera setup over my desk and I'll show you how you can click it all together and what it all looks like together. So this is the palette gear, and this is what I was sent. So we've got the buttons, we've got the dials, and we've got the sliders. And this is the sort of control, the brain of it. It's like a little screen. And one thing I'm going to quickly do is just kill my light and then see if you can see the glow that it gives. So you can see that there's a red glow around this part. Now you can change that, you can change the colours and everything like that. And I'm just going to bring up the software just to kick this into play. So the way that this has to connect, let's put my light back on. So there's these like strip bars, but there's pins as well. So on this one you can see some pins. So hopefully the camera wants to focus. So you can see some pins there. You can't because it doesn't want to focus. Aha, there we go. Right, pins. So pins have to talk to the little bars, and then you can probably see that it's just lit up. And it's going to go crazy because of the LEDs, but hey ho. Right, now if I turn off my light again, you'll see that now it is lit up. So this one's lit up because it's connected properly. Now if I don't connect the other one properly, i.e. not put pins to pins, you can see they don't light up. So that's quite a cool feature, or annoying feature, however you want to look at it. So what you can then do is connect these all up how you need to connect them up. Can't remember actually how I had this. Just pop it in like that, and then like that. Ta-da! And you can see they've all lit up because they're properly connected. So that's quite cool. You know they're working when they're lit up. So let's put the light back on. And like I say, that is completely customizable as well. And I've got a Mac keyboard here, which is aluminium itself, and one thing I have found is that because of the magnets, it does attract itself to these. It almost sort of wants to stick to the alley, which I don't know, could be quite a cool thing that it sticks around it. The other thing to notice is that I can build this round my keyboard, so if I wanted to, I could move this up and then stretch it this way. Really highly customizable of how you want to build this and how you want it laid out. So if I want, say, exposure over here and then contrast over here, and then you want highlight, recovery, or whatever, excuse me again, you can really have it as you want it, and I think that's really nice, really customizable, and you can set it up around your keyboard, around how you work, rather than being fixed to a layout. So again, I thought that was quite cool. You can see this, it is flashing away. Let's see if I can change my shutter speed to stop it. Although it's now gone to sleep, that's always typical, isn't it? Can I come back to life? Right, here we go. Right, there we are. So this here is the brains. Although it's now flashing away again. Let's change my shutter speed to stop it. Right, I think that's about as close as I'm going to get there. So you can see it says C1 standard. Now I've set that, and it normally has the Capture One logo on there. And like I say, I've made it red. So that's also quite a nifty feature. It's very customizable, as I say. But let's see what it does and what it allows me to do on the computer. So I'm going to set this camera up so you can see my hands working. Apologise already for the flickering on the screen. And then I'll also record my monitor and you can see how it all interacts. Okay, so I'm at the desk now. I've got a camera just sitting above my keyboard and the set out here, and I've got recording my screen. So this is Capture One Pro 12, and I've just put a couple of images in here from a few different weddings just to show you. So the software, which I'll bring up here, this is what it looks like. Let's make it bigger so we can see what it's doing, and you can see now this is actually followed exactly how I had it set out. And as you can see, I've got it set out exactly like that. So if I now break away this end one, which says contrast on the screen, you can see it disappear off my screen, which is quite nice. And let's say I wanted to put that in just under here. So let's click it back in. Hurrah. So it comes back on. Again, really nice. Can break that off. And let's say we want to move that over here. Again, it's gone with it. So like I say, absolutely incredibly customizable, which is a really nice feature. So how do you change the features on the software? So I've got exposure on this dial here, and you can see it's just popped up there, and probably see the image change. So I click on that, it then gives me another window which has the Capture One 11 Plus mode, and I've got all the ability in here, so black and white. Wow. So this is set to just what this can do. So if I now just say done and I click button, I see I've got now a different set of functions here. So I've got menu actions, I've got keyboard mode, Mac mode, and function switching as well, which is obviously quite nice. So you can set up different profiles. So if you're like in Lightroom and you want the develop against the library, you could switch profiles and have this set up for develop and for library. You can see here that I can set this up so I can change the screen name that appears on here. And yeah, so this is how I've set it up. I did have this differently, and I've taken it all apart and put it back together again, but it still remembers what one was what, which is a really nice thing. There's some quick start profiles if you want to add them in there. So if you want to get started, and this will obviously just get you going, you can save them, you can share them, obviously delete them off as well. So I've just called this C1 standard. Like I say, this was to get me started. The one thing I noticed straight away is if I get rid of this, it stays in your dock down here, as you can probably just see peeking into, and it stays up in the bar in the Mac as well. Now, when I look at this, I don't now know what's what. That's the thing I think quite difficult. If I now move this one, I've got to remember that it's exposure. So when I go to it, I've got to remember that it's exposure. Now, you probably can't see on here, but this changes and tells you that it's exposure, as well as on the screen, you'll see it pop up to say that you're changing the exposure. So you can, I've just now moved the contrast. You can see it's now saying contrast on the screen. Same with exposure has just popped back up. And again, with contrast pops back up. So if I now change one of the dials, sharpening amount appears, etc. So I'm just going to move this one back to here so you can see it in the screen. Now, this isn't a keyboard replacement tool. It's to complement it as much as the Loop Deck is as well. But I'll just sort of show you how I've got things set up. So I've got this little heart is my own set of tools that I like to use. Now, one thing with Loop Deck, when I started moving exposure, what it would do was jump around, and I like to have my own toolbar here. This is one of the beauties of Capture One. I can have what I want in my own toolbar. I don't need to go through all of these. I can have everything in one place where I want it and how I like it. And there's a lot of things I don't use, so then they're not included. Or the processing of things, I've just left to its own area because I don't need to play around with that. So if I actually have exposure here, you can see that the value has changed as there's contrast. Now, if I move the slider slightly, you can see the finite adjustment that's happening live time, and I'm moving this very slowly here, but actually on the screen it is really moving really nice and really finite adjustments, and this is hardly anything, absolutely hardly anything. And obviously I can go big, and it goes big on my screen, so it's pretty quick. And I'm not using the fastest Mac in the world. And I've just heard the old fan start kicking in, so you might hear that in a minute. I do apologise. And again, with the contrast, you can see that's working pretty well if you ask me. And again, one of these is brightness. Now, I can't remember which one it was because I've moved them all around. So if I touch it, there we go, brightness. That was pretty good lucky, wasn't it? So I can make this brighter. And like I say, it's quite nice. It's quite adjustable. Do my sharpening. I remember that one was my sharpening. But now, I don't know what I'm sharpening. I have no idea because it hasn't opened the panel. but I can obviously open Sharpening, and I would normally open Sharpening to adjust it. But you can see it is adjusting it, and like I say, it does say it down here, and it does pop up on the screen, as you can see as well. So what's this one? Highlight recovery. So I can whiz that round, and you can start seeing the beautiful sky come back. So this, I think, is really tactile, really nice. The one thing I do think it lacks, which would be incredible, they have this type of technology, even if it was like a little e-ink display on these, it would be lovely just to see what it is that you've set it to, a bit like having this open, but having it on here. So if this is set to undo, like it is, then it'd be nice to have it written on here somehow. I don't know if that worked. Well, obviously with the loop deck, it's all written everywhere, but you don't have the customizable, so it's a bit trade-offy. You know, if you want the complete customizable that this gives, then you kind of got to remember what you're doing. Bit muscle memory. But if you want to just quick glance down, oh, that's where it was. It's a bit like your camera. Most of the time, once you've remembered how it works, you just muscle memory and you go to it. So perhaps I'm eating my own words then, and once I learn and remember where all this is, it will just work. So let's use the nice new features in Capture One Pro 12, and let's see if this can complement it. So what I'm going to do is, I've got my layers here. I'm going to add a new empty layer. There it is. And with that, I'm going to drag down a Luma range. And so this is doing a luminosity mask. So if I display mask, he says it's not even actually giving it a mask yet, have I? Come on, there we are. So I can draw a linear gradient, I can draw a radial gradient, which is new in Capture One Pro 12. So I'm going to draw a linear, and I'm going to come down to here. And what I want to do is start recovering that sky. So I'm going to bring it all the way down and use the luminosity to recover the sky. Now, I've already done quite a bit on the high dynamic range in the background layer. So let's bring that back and watch the sky blow out again. Let's go back to layer one. And what I want to do is affect the high dynamic range, but only on the luminosity part. So if I now select Luma range, display the mask. There it is. Now I only want to affect the bright part, so I want this. So I want to get rid of all the dark parts. And you can see that really starting to take shape and really starting to only affect those really bright areas. You can see a bit around the edge of the trees, but you can see it's gone from here. Now, if you didn't have that luminosity, you'd be getting a brush out and trying to paint around, and we all tried that when we were first new at it, and you get this halo effect. So I'm not going to kick the backside out of this. Let's just leave it as that and apply. So now I know I'm only affecting this. So obviously I can come over here and hit the highlights, but I know this is highlights, so let's give this a go. He says, what am I adjusting? Brightness. That was silly, wasn't it? See, told you, I've already forgotten which one it was. So let's bring the highlights back down. And now I just want to affect highlight recovery. Here we go. Okay. So that's interesting. Like I say, I've not played with this yet. That's interesting. It's not affecting the layer. This hasn't moved. Yeah, if I move this, it'll start to only affect that layer. And you can see this little icon here is say that I'm only affecting the layer, yet the control didn't affect the highlight. Now that might be something I've done wrong, and something I'll talk to Palette Gear about. But what I was hoping is that this highlight recovery was going to affect my layer and not the background. So if I'm obviously moving this, and you can see the changes happening, but this isn't moving. Yet if I click on background, we can see that it's actually adjusting that one. So that isn't being effective to layers. But let's change it around and let's get the shadows up. So let's do a bit of shadow recovery on this. That's probably a bit too much. And we can obviously go for a bit more highlight to bring that sky back even more. There we go. Now there's other stuff I do with this. We'll play around with the contrast, and do we need that exposure up now? I don't know, but it's nice to be able to just quickly go like that and set 3 stars. So that's quite nice. Let's have a look at another image. So this was obviously exposed for the sky, and again we have the luminosity mask and things like that. First thing I'd want to do is obviously warm this up a tad. There we are. Now let's go and try and edit this fully on here. Now, one thing I have noticed is these have moved because of my last image. Now if I move this, can you see that it jumped? The exposure's automatically jumped to obviously where it was, where I'd set it on the last image, to where I'm then going to expose to it. So really, really annoyingly, the A7 III overheated while I was doing that. First time I've done that, and I got to admit it may have been my own fault. Didn't realise it's in the UK where we're a little bit chilly for the UK, so we're sitting about 1-2 degrees, if not minus at the moment. So I've got the heater on in my office, and the heater was below the camera, and the camera also had the old monitor sitting on top. So it may have got quite hot, and it was going for a good 10 minutes plus. So it might have been my own fault, in fairness, but I don't want to, ruin that footage. I was pretty much near the end, and it was only an explorative thing. So just to recap, that's Capture One Pro 12, and we're going to do a bit more in-depth stuff with that. 2, it was palette gear, and where we'd got with that was it's really customizable. Really like that aspect of it. Can sit up and do what you like. It works with so much stuff, and again we'll go into a bit more of this when I've had more time to go and play with it. There's a few things I think I'd change with it. I don't know if it needs to be so big, as in I don't know if these dials and switches need to be this big. They're good for the tactile side of it and getting hold of it, but when you sort of compare those to the loop deck, they're a lot smaller, but actually they kind of give you the same functionality. So does it need to be that big? I don't know. Could you then make the dial, for example, smaller, and then have that room for some type of labelling to help you? Don't know. I might come back to you a video in sort of say 6 months time and say, don't worry about the labelling, once you're using it, it doesn't matter, you'll remember why you've put things. These are just my first thoughts about it, really. One thing I must say is, to me, at the moment, I don't like these because of what I was just showing you before my camera overheated. If you're set in the middle on something like the exposure, which has 2 ways to go, underexposed and overexposed. So on a previous image, you've moved it up quite a lot. You move to the next image, because that doesn't reset. As soon as you go to move this, it automatically goes to that point on that image. So if I've set this, say, 2 stops over, and the next image I go to edit doesn't need to be 2 stops over. As soon as I go to move this, it's already 2 stops over. So you're going to have to move it past or back. So instead of it kind of being a subtle adjustment, which is where I think more of these would come in use, because there is no, they just continually turn. It's always 0 when you're going back to it. This is set at 0 as soon as you hit it. So I kind of think these would be better. I don't actually understand why you'd need that. I don't know. Because it's got stops on it, if you know what I mean. But perhaps I'll find a use, and perhaps I'll eat my words again. But that's one of my initial thoughts. But as for the interactivity with Capture One Pro 12, it works lovely. And we have seen some bugs with the loop deck, and we've not really used it. And like I say, I can now edit with my own panel up. With the loop deck, as I edit, it jumps all over the place. So if exposure's on one tool bar, it will jump and open that one. So if I then wanted to move something myself, to go back to my own toolbar and start editing it there, so it jumps about all over the place. That might be something that Loupedeck are fixing, because it's only kind of in beta for them, or beta, or however you want to pronounce that. So that might be something that they'll fix. But initial impressions is a decent, well-made bit of kit. The functionality, the smoothness and the moving, you could see it was really finite adjustments, which was nice. And we've noticed the Loupedeck can jump around a bit. These original Loupedecks, just like it looking down here, have had issues, and I've known many people send many of them back, and the Loupedeck Plus is supposed to be a lot better. If we can get our hands on a Loupedeck Plus and pitch one against the other, it'd be nice. Obviously the Loupedeck's a lot cheaper, so are you paying for a premium here, or is the Loupedeck better? We'll have to see, but I'm going to give it some time, and I'm going to come back with another video and sort of tell you my experiences with using the palette gear. But if you have got one and you love it and you want to go to Capture One, now's the time. They're now fully supporting it if you're with Mac, and I believe Windows is coming. All the information's on their website, and vice versa. If you've got Capture One and actually want to use these, you can now if you're running Mac. And I've just realised that these click, so there may be another function built into that. I'm still unsure on these. I still want to feel like I want to go and play Pac-Man, which may be where that helpful. I don't know. Cool. Well, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all the recent subscribers we've had. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers, which is absolutely wicked. We're really starting to push some stuff as obviously this year winds down. We're going to wind down a little bit with it and give it a kickstart for 2019. But if you are looking to get Capture One, we do have a discount code for everybody. It's TPT, the photography team. So if you want money off an upgrade or money off buying it outright, then use TPT at the checkout and get some money off. And we're going to look at loads of other stuff as well, some other software, and like I say, pitching Loupedeck against the palette gear and looking at them in different software as well. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your subscriptions. Please also check out our blog, because we're now keeping up with some of the announcements that are coming on the blog. You can subscribe on there. That's thephotographyteam.co.uk. Click on the blog and hit your subscription on that, and give us your email. We'll ping you out an update or an announcement when we blog. So quite a lot of these go hand in hand, and some stuff goes on there that never gets a video. So best to be subscribed to both places. Thanks very much, and I'll see you on the next one.